Most fintech growth conversations start at the wrong place. They start when something already feels stuck. Someone opens a dashboard, someone points at conversion, someone says people don't seem to get it, and that's usually where discussion begins. But by that point, the decision has already started breaking much earlier. This video is about that earlier moment, not about understanding, not about trust, not about explanation. About the moment before any of those feels safe to attempt. Let me describe a situation you've probably been in. You ship something new, or you clean up your messaging, or you finally push traffic to page you've been iterating for months. Nothing looks obviously wrong. People don't bounce immediately, time on page is fine, click-through isn't terrible. And still, momentum never really builds. Deals feel slow, conversation drag, users hesitate in ways that are hard to explain. So naturally, the questions start. Should we explain this better? Do people miss something? Do we need more proof upfront? Those are reasonable questions, they're just asked too late. Most teams assume that the first real decision a user makes is whether they understand the product. That's rarely true in fintech. Before users decide whether they understand what you do, they decide whether engaging feels safe at all. That decisions happen quietly, fast, often without conscious thoughts. And it's not about features, it's about effort. Trying to understand something already costs attention, and attention requires effort. And under uncertainty, effort feels risky. That's the first layer of fintech decision making. Think about landing on a fintech website for the first time. You haven't read anything yet. You're not confused. You are not convinced. You're scanning. Does this feel dense? Does it look like work? Am I going to have to concentrate just to keep up? That judgment happens before meaning. And if the answer feels uncertain, most users don't reject the product. They pause. They skim, they leave quietly. They tell themselves they will come back, but they usually don't. This is the part that's easy to miss. Hesitation at this stage doesn't mean people don't like what they see. It means they haven't decided it's worth the effort yet. And effort in fintech is interpreted as risk until proven otherwise. This showed up very clearly with Aliran. They were already running paid ads, traffic was coming in, nothing looked broken at the first glance. But the conversations that they wanted weren't really forming. What was happening wasn't a targeting issue or a traffic issue, it was an early decision issue. The first interaction asked for more effort than users were actually ready to give. So people clicked, looked around, and quietly disengaged. Once the way the product was introduced changed, the traffic itself started behaving differently. Not because the audience changed, but because the first step stopped feeling heavy. That's exactly what this early phase is about. This is where many fintech teams misdiagnose the problem. They see hesitation and assume confusion. So they add explanation. But explanation is cognitively expensive. And at this stage, the users hasn't agreed to pay that cost yet. You can think of this first phase as a quiet risk scan. Users aren't evaluating your solution yet. They're evaluating themselves in relation to it. Do I have the capacity to deal with this? Is it going to demand attention I don't want to spend right now? Will engaging create obligation? If that scan doesn't feel safe, nothing else matters. This shows up very clearly in sales. If your sales team spends the first part of every call explaining basics, something is off. Not because the explanation is bad, but because the decision to understand should already be made by the time that call happens. Otherwise, explanation feels like pressure, and pressure creates resistance. We saw this with a fintech offering passwordless authentication. The product was solid, the team was sharp, but early conversations required long explanations. Deals didn't collapse, they just stalled. Once the introduction shifted away from technical mechanics and toward meaning and relevance, something changed. Sales conversations become calmer, more focused, momentum returned. Not because people suddenly understood more, because they were finally ready to understand. This is the distinction most teams miss. Understanding is not the first step. Understanding is something users earn the right to attempt when perceived safety is high enough. If you ask for effort too early, your create drag before engagement even begins. This is what I called the pre-decision drag. Nothing is obviously wrong, but the experience feels demanding before it feels safe. And that demand quietly slows everything that follows. If there's one thing to take from this video is this. If engagement feels heavy, explanation is probably arriving too early. Not wrong, just early. In the next video, we'll look at where this effort usually gets introduced, not through big mistakes, but through small structural choices that feels harmless on their own. Once you start seeing these moments, it becomes much easier to understand why things feel stuck even when nothing looks broken.